You ever find yourself in a room full of people, but you're just scrolling on your phone and you feel totally, completely alone? It's this wild contradiction of our time, isn't it? We have thousands of friends online, yet so many of us are dealing with this deep sense of loneliness. So in this explainer, we're going to dig into why our super connected world might actually be making us feel more isolated than ever. Let's get into it. This quote from cultural analyst Sherry Turkle it nails it. A text can absolutely feel like a hug. It's that little ping of connection that we really, really value. But as we're about to see, when we start relying only on that kind of connection, it can come with a pretty big price tag. It's a paradox she lives, and honestly, one that pretty much all of us are navigating. All right, first things first, let's break down this idea, the loneliness paradox. To really get a handle on the problem, we've got to be clear on what we're talking about. Now, this is so important to understand. On one side, you have social isolation. That's just a fact, right? It's objective. You can count the number of people you talk to. But loneliness, that's a feeling. It's a totally subjective experience. It's that painful gap between the connection you crave and the connection you actually have. And that right there is why you can be at a party or in a giant crowd and still feel like the loneliest person in the world. So that brings us to the big question. How can we be so connected, but feel so alone? Let's get into the psychology behind this whole thing. Here it is. This is Sherry Turkle's core idea. We're making a trade-off. We are swapping rich, deep conversation for what she calls mere connection. Think about it. We're getting a constant stream of likes, texts, and notifications, but we're losing the actual substance, the real meat of human interaction. And Turkle has this great name for it, the Goldilocks effect. We use our devices to keep everyone at that perfect distance, not too close, not too far, but just right. This is exactly what happens with parasocial relationships. You know, when you feel like you're best friends with an influencer you follow online, our brain gets that little hit of familiarity, that feeling of knowing someone. But we have all the control. We get the illusion of friendship without any of the messy, unpredictable, and demanding parts of a real one. And this just lays out that trade-off perfectly. A real face-to-face conversation is alive, it's messy, you can't really control what you're going to say next, but a text message, a social media post, oh, you get to edit, delete, retouch, you can craft the perfect, polished version of yourself. It feels way safer for sure, but it's missing the raw authenticity that actually builds real intimacy. And this is where it gets a little dangerous. See, our brains are kind of getting tricked. They struggle to tell the difference between a real connection and a virtual one. But here's the kicker. Our bodies know the difference. We don't get the same biological reward. A real hug, a deep in-person chat, that releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. A like or a comment just doesn't do that. So we start settling for what Turkle calls pretend empathy, this feeling of being understood without any of the real work of friendship. And over time, we start to expect more and more from our tech, and crucially, less and less from each other. Now, this isn't just about our feelings. This has snowballed into a full-blown public health crisis with really severe, measurable consequences for our physical health. Okay, just let this number sink in for a second. A massive study, we're talking over 3.4 million people, found that loneliness increases your risk of dying early by 26%. That is a staggering statistic. It just throws the seriousness of this whole issue into sharp relief. And it's not just one thing, it's a whole cascade of issues. Loneliness is directly linked to a higher risk of stroke, heart disease, dementia, depression, anxiety, even high blood pressure and terrible sleep. It's like it attacks our well-being from every possible angle, both in our minds and in our bodies. And if the health side wasn't enough, it has a massive cost to society. Just in the UK, loneliness costs businesses £2.5 billion every single year, mostly from people being sick and less productive. So this is not just some personal struggle. It's a huge societal problem that's hitting our healthcare systems and our economies hard. So yeah, the problem is big. I get it, but it is not hopeless, not at all. So let's shift gears and talk about solutions. How do we start reclaiming real connection? The very first step, and maybe the most powerful one, is a mental shift. It's about learning the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is that negative, imposed feeling. But solitude? That's a choice. It's a positive state of being alone, on purpose to connect with yourself. Like Sherry Turkle says, if we can't be alone, we'll only ever know how to be lonely. So how do you actually do it? You start small. Seriously, like just a few minutes of silence in your car without the radio on, or a 10-minute walk. Then try creating device-free zones in your house. Turkle calls them sacred spaces for conversation, like the kitchen table. And finally, you gotta schedule it. Treat your time for solitude like you would a workout. It's a muscle, and it gets stronger the more you use it. And then, beyond ourselves, we can start to rebuild the social fabric of our communities. Things like chatty cafes, where strangers are actually encouraged to talk to each other, are amazing. Or social clubs that bring different generations together. But honestly, even the smallest gestures, smiling at someone on the street, having a quick chat with your neighbor, those little things rebuild the trust and connection we all need to thrive. So all of this leaves us with a question to really think about. We've looked at the paradox, the psychology behind it, and some real solutions. The challenge now is to bring it into our own lives. Take a look at your own day, your own home, your habits. Where is one place you can put the phone down, turn to the person next to you, and reclaim just a little bit of space for a real, messy, unpredictable, and wonderful conversation?